Hey, welcome to Hear Us Out. I'm Paul,
And I'm Patrick.
and today we're going to be talking about movies or TV shows that we've been watching in lockdown that we may have had a preconception of, and that preconception was smashed by the actual movie. So
Yeah. So and this topic came from Paul, and it intrigued me for one good reason. I'm dying to know what made him think of it, but it's a great one because lockdown has had an effect on the entertainment industry that we've covered ad nauseum. You can see lots and lots of great videos in our video library. Please go there,
mhm.
like and subscribe on the way. Blah 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 blah. Tickle the analytics. I got it in. I know, got it in. But it's gas because one of the key things about lockdown is people watch so much that they were watching things they intended to get round to. And the I intend to get round to it is usually the thing that you have a preconceived notion or a preconception about because you haven't watched it, but you want to watch it. So why didn't you? It's usually because you think, oh, it's not going to be as good as I think, or oh, I'm going to find it more uncomfortable than I think, or whatever that might be. So I think it's a really interesting one. I'm pretty sure that all of you out there watching this are going to have some sort of experience or some sort of example. So comments down below. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, yeah, that's where it came from was kind of like I guess with lockdown, I've kind of had a little bit more free time to kind of go through my backlog of movies and stuff like that, and at one point I was choosing. So at the start, I was kind of re-watching films that I've already watched, and then I kind of was just like, "No, Paul, what are you doing? This is definitely the time to start watching some new stuff. You have the extra time. You don't need to. You don't need to have your. You don't have your your daily like travel to work kind of thing. You have like an extra 3 hours a day. So why not watch some stuff that's new?" And so I started going through the backlog, and one of the things that kind of caught my eye was Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. And
Oh yeah,
my
which I haven't
preconce
seen, by the way. Just so I'm cold with anybody in the audience that hasn't either.
so I'm not gonna I won't be spoiling too much, which is but my preconception of it was just it was a white guy, Tom Cruise, who wanted to become a samurai. Um, so
And honestly, I can see why you would have thought that because part of the reason I probably haven't seen this is I was like, oh, it's Tom Cruise doing Western samurai. That's essentially that's all I know about the movie as well. And again, I'm not judging the movie too harshly, but got to be honest with you, I haven't seen it because that would have been essentially my preconceived notion.
yeah, so yeah, very similar kind of thing. I was just like, this is going to be a Tom Cruise, probably by the numbers, kind of like kind of I guess older kind of school action hero kind of stuff. Um, but what I found was a incredibly culturally sensitive, um, amazing kind of movie, which the only part that kind of Tom Cruise brings in is a Westerner's view of the kind of I guess traditional samurai culture that was in Japan at the time, at the time of the movie kind of set. And like it's a really kind of interesting movie itself, and it kind of destroyed the preconception of this is a by the numbers action film.
Well, you've
Um,
you've surprised me by using words like culturally sensitive and kind of not by the numbers. So, are you saying that they use the device well for a change of the outsider? So he's educated by the movie. I'm assuming is usually when that's used best. They use their main characters learning to help you realize what preconceived notions you've been carrying around about a culture or a organization or a system or whatever it might be.
yeah, very much so. So like
Ooh.
it's a kind of like it's him learning kind of the samurai ways and stuff like that, through kind of being there in kind of deep into the culture and stuff like that. But there's moments in which he's writing in a diary, and these kind of like I guess insights into his view of the culture itself and like what he's kind of gone through is interesting kind of, and it's done very kind of it's very well done in the kind of sensitive nature of it doesn't glorify anything, and it doesn't slag anything or kind of like bring in maybe preconceived Western kind of ideas. It's very much like
Yeah.
these guys did the research and kind of find out as much as they could, and you know it was great, and this is where this came from, as and I was very surprised by it, and then I started going through all the other movies that I watched in lockdown and kind of going, what other movies have I had preconceptions and it's kind of ruined? So
Well, before you leave Last Samurai, because now obviously you big pain in the arse, you've added one more thing to my watch list that is already too long, because
yeah,
there's only so much time in the day. But I got to admit, everybody, when Paul says something, it's not just professional courtesy because we do this together. He does tend to have a pretty good nose for these things, so it's going to creep up my watch list. So it's on Netflix.
yes, yeah, it's on Netflix as well, so easy enough to access. And I do recommend to either add it to your list or maybe bump it up the list to kind of get to watch. So
Cool. Well, I'm going to watch it, and anybody out there that's watching this and hasn't seen it, give it a watch, and I'll be commenting down below. So yeah, we can see what we think. I'm excited by the idea because we talked a few episodes ago about Tom Cruise's rehabilitation for me through the medium of Live Die Repeat or Edge of Tomorrow, depending on what jurisdiction you saw that movie in. So I'm all ready for Tom Cruise to do good stuff. Not that he hasn't done great stuff all throughout his career, he really has. But he's done a lot of, you would expect it from Tom Cruise, or that's a very Tom Cruise movie. And I know Mission Impossible is maybe a bit hard to pin him on, because they are that type of movie. God knows though, he did The Mummy. Actually, I've just realized even his comeback or his resurgence has a big blot in its copybook because he did The Mummy. What was that? Anyway, yeah. If you haven't seen The Mummy out there, folks, I don't know if it's on any of the streaming services, but please don't watch it because you're never getting that time back, and you're probably going to be quite annoyed, not just for the wasted time, but for the wasted money that is all over the screen badly. It's like,
yeah, like not to kind of badmouth the film too much, but if you want to see what happens when a actor gets too much of their way because they've been in a lot of good stuff, but it's been that their suggestions have been taken on board, but maybe tweaked a little bit, or it's been taken on board and kind of particular moments. In The Mummy, it was like everything was just like, yeah, we're Tom Cruise has total enormity of kind of going through this stuff, and
that's what they say, which is awful for him because now he's getting the blame for, let's face it, a massive turkey or turd, depending on your choice. I would personally call it a turkey turd burger. It's awful.
it had potential, and yeah, it kind of got ruined. So
it blew like so much mummy sand in the wind. It blew all of its potential right away, and apparently right up Tom Cruise's bum because if he thought he was making the right calls, poor guy. Don't ruin the movie for everybody. Just act, man. I have to give a pick now, don't I? Or give a thing because I'm kind of scared about this one because I'm picking something really, really contentious, and I'm not messing around for change. This is not internet amateur dramatics. There are going to be people who are going to absolutely hate what I'm about to say, and I implore those people to just hear me out and no play on channel name. Train to Busan. Universally loved. Train to Busan. So you can imagine me seeing this for the first time. I had high expectations. It had all of the weight of people going, it's like nothing else you've watched. It's the best zombie movie. It's, I have a history of enjoying Korean cinema as well. Like I'm coming in with my old boy level expectations. It had a lot to live up to, and I'm not saying that it didn't. It didn't completely, and where it didn't really shook me, like really jarred me because it's so clever, so well timed and so well paced in places. Some of the shot choices are great. Some of the little mechanisms are genius. Like all of the good things that I heard are all true, but they're only true for 85% of the movie. And 15% of the movie, I'm like, ooh, that's awful. Like there's some hamming up of the acting in spots that you're like, ugh, what would they do? They needed another take or another actor or just different direction because that was awful. Almost bordering on kind of what felt like from the outside for me, weird racial stereotype stuff. There's a few moments. I'm not getting into them because I do not want to be on the internet and be roasted forever. But I'm not saying it's a bad film. And when I had to talk about this, I'm saying I actually think it is probably one of the best zombie movies ever made. I'm
Yeah.
not a huge zombie movie guy, so my opinion shouldn't count that much. But for me, it is. Having said that, I also think it's one of the more interesting and better made and one of the better movies I've seen in the last 10 years. All of this is high praise. So where's it all going wrong? When it's bad, it's truly awful. Like some of the zombie slobber move kind of, extra snap stuff, it felt played out and hammed up. And it wasn't, oh, well, forgive the budget. It's like, oh, some of it felt like there was some cuts where scenes had been removed because dialogue, it made sense in isolation, but not in consecutive flow.
Hmm.
It's like, oh my God, right, we're all doing this, we're all doing this. Okay, we're trapped for a moment. So you wish you'd spent more time with your daughter, eh? It's like, what? Now is when that character who had been really quite well built up says that. Like it was real pull the parachute out of the plane stuff where I'm like, oh my God, I'm missing the movie. And it's that good that you're back on the plane 2 minutes later going, this is amazing. But the people who love it, if you want to come at me and say that it's flawless, I'm willing to argue. If you want to say that it is so good that it overcomes its very obvious flaws really, really well, I'm completely with you. So Paul saved me because Train to
Well, no,
Busan
that's
is like, it's like gold
it's
to some people.
yeah, it's one of those kind of like held up like on a pedestal kind of Korean films, and also it kind of transverses to the zombie genre as well. So yeah, you kind of got a double group of communities there being
And I
going to
think
come
it's
after
great.
you.
Again, I can't,
Yeah,
like
like
one of
that's
the best films I've ever seen, I'll even say,
look,
with some of the smartest mechanisms and, plot points ever,
it's going
but
to be
still.
it's going to be the same because when I say I like cats more than I like dogs, everybody like suggests that I hate dogs, and I'm just like, no,
Yeah.
no, no, no. It's like I like cats 5 points more than I like dogs. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Like so you're going to have two communities coming after you, even though you've repeatedly said it's one of the best films you've seen in recent time. It's not going to come
Yeah.
after you. But
This
I
is
do
true.
agree. I do agree. There is elements in that film that do kind of like I guess jar you out of it, and like yeah, like I get the argument of kind of going because I was the same with you. I had it built up for me quite a bit when I went to
Mm.
watch it, and I guess as a movie fan, I automatically
Mm.
gloss over certain parts that I know kind of can be like to the kind of like I guess snappy movements of some of the zombies and stuff like that is a bit
Which
weird.
again, like it's okay. It's just
Yeah,
some of the time how it was used, I'm a bit like, oh, felt a bit camp where you're not really going for it. That's one of the things they switched in and out of camp very freely, and that may also just be me not quite getting it. And I'm always open to being completely wrong because I often am. But yeah, some of the tonal shift in how it was constructed, and it was only short periods, but it was enough for me to kind of feel like it felt like a really nice dinner where every now and again the waiter would just slap me as they walked past, and I'm like, anybody else see that? What, is it just me? What?
yeah, like I get that's actually a really good analogy. I would say that that's a very much cultural. That is a cultural thing. Kind of with Korean movies, as in there is drive-by moments of kind of like short periods of kind of like this, then this, and then long periods of kind of the back to the film kind of thing. But I do get you even from like from just a general kind of movie view. Watching those moments do jar you out of it, and as you said, when it's good, it's like the best it can be and stuff,
It's
and so
it's
it's great. But when it's
incredible.
bad, it can be quite bad. Like
Mm.
so, I get you. That's actually a good one because when I was thinking this up, I was not thinking of anything that might be like, I guess my
The
like
hell
as
high
in
that dropped.
yeah, like that's the kind of interesting. Yeah, so that's now I probably have a couple more kind of ones that I was just like like um
Well, what else have you got? Because here's the actually. Do you mind if we take a little segue, just because I
oh
have you
no, go
here,
for it. Yeah,
and we
go
have
for it.
not had a chance to talk about Train to Busan, and you're again, car guy, zombie movie, etc. Like we have our lanes. But I really rely on Paul because like I loved Night of the Living Dead. I think the original classic is exactly that. It's original and classic.
Hmm.
And I don't think I'd put this above it, but I'm putting it up there with it. For me, when it comes to all the zombie movies I've ever seen, how do you feel about it? Because you're into the genre. Did you kind of go, that's, that is a good take and a great example of how you can do something new and still keep all the good tropes of the genre going?
Yeah, like it's a really good movie in the sense of kind of like the premise of it's happening on a train because I have a list of places where if a zombie outbreak ever occurs not to ever be near, and one of them is on a train because it's a fast moving vehicle that very tight spaces, very little places to go to hide and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And despite all of that, eventually will crash. So like if you survive the initial kind of like outbreak and zombies going through the carriages and eating everybody, if one of them gets to the driver, you're dead anyway.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's
But
an interesting kind of one with Train to Busan because it's the driver survives for quite a bit of it for quite a long time, and
yeah,
the idea
spoilers,
is
everybody, and all that stuff. If you haven't seen it,
yeah,
maybe fast
like
forward, 2 minutes.
it's like I wouldn't say I say it's probably a bit of a it is a spoiler I will say, but it's a bit of a kind of like this plot point or this movie wouldn't probably go as far as it would without that piece of information.
Yeah.
But from a zombie movie, it's good in the sense of kind of it is up there. The concept is really good. They don't really mess around with too much of the kind of like kind of spoiling kind of like the origins of the virus or going too much into it kind of thing. It's just a story of people in the moment kind of thing, which I find is the
Yeah.
best zombie esque films. Like I hate the ones that try to explain too much.
Well, that's
About
it. It's delicate in that it doesn't try and give you all the answers, and it's the delicacy that it takes, and there's a very fine touch to that movie in so many places. That every time there's a ham-fisted maneuver, which they're referencing to people's, we could crash the market on this. When it's the business part for the main character at the start, you're like, oh, they're laying that on a little bit thick. And then a phone call later on, it's like, did we do this? Yeah, that's already been suggested. Show, don't tell. It's been inferred enough. There's no real extra emotion being grabbed out of that. And worse than that, you're in the middle of a different moment now that you were really delicately crafting between a couple of people, and then you just throw that in. You know what? I'm gonna say maybe there was more than one person in charge of that movie. And I think there was one vision and one visionary, and then somebody who was maybe chipping in when not needed. That's just the way it felt. It felt like
it
the
could
show. You're doing really well, and I just come along and make balls out of it.
no, no. Like I definitely, I think that's yeah. I think there probably was pressure from studios and stuff like that. That probably
Mm.
or producer to probably stepped in and kind of went. We should probably put in more of where this came from and stuff like that. But like,
Yeah.
wouldn't worry too much about it. Like as a zombie film, it's very good. It's up there with a lot of other stuff. It does seem like the foreign film industry for zombie films do seem to bring out better and better stuff. Just because they like wreck the original, the Spanish film about
Yeah.
zombies and stuff like that. That was incredibly scary and stuff like that. And then they made a knockoff called Quarantine.
Oh,
The Americans did so, which was terrible. It pretty much just
okay.
it's
Yeah, when
terrible.
you
Like
said knockoff, I was like, this is probably not going well.
it's a good film, but when you find out that it's based on Wreck and then you watch Wreck, you're just like, oh, okay, so this is pretty much a
Okay.
shot by shot kind of take over kind of film. Um, but yeah, so yeah,
There you go.
that's
So everybody, my one line review of Train to Busan is: do see it. It is brilliant. Has issues, but do see it. It is brilliant.
yeah,
Best conceits ever, like the use of the train and not being lazy enough to just stay on the train the whole time as well. I was really happy with that. Thought that was inspired how they handled all that quite well. Like it's genuinely brilliant. I cannot believe I'm defending a movie that I've repeatedly said is brilliant
Yeah,
because I feel scared of the internet on this one.
like I wouldn't be too
Yeah.
too much on it. I'm sure that loads of people are going to say that like Glass Samurai is terrible,
Yeah,
kind of
possibly.
thing.
You
So,
never know. So what else have you got to get us safely away from that zombie locomotive?
this is probably more interesting, and also probably a lot more not more interesting, but a lot more kind of uh current. Was the old guard.
Bugger. We really should have compared notes because I was going to need that in a minute. That was my other choice. But no, yeah, Old Guard. Old Guard's a good call because I also thought of that. And I'm interested to hear why you're going to say it though.
So my preconception was that it was going to be a good like a good enough by the numbers kind of comic book movie, with like Charlie Theron, which is great and all. She's a fantastic actor. Um, but yeah, what I got was I thought it was going to be by the numbers, kind of like generic Netflix kind of adaptation of the comic books, which is respectful. I could just have to say the majority of their kind of the majority of the times that they've done comic book films, it has been respectful of the source material.
Yeah.
To the level that I got with this, I was very surprised, in a positive way, I would say. Like there are certain changes from the comic books like origins, but I definitely understand why they probably did that, just for simplicity's sake, and it makes plot more interesting for the future and stuff. Because I don't want to spoil anything, but I can
No,
talk to you
yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
and I saw it before you and raved. So I'm glad that you've got to see it now because we actually haven't had an in-depth discussion. And
yeah,
I'm going to use our time on air to actually do that in a second because I'm really curious about one or two things you thought. But I will preface anything we say with spoilers if they're going to be. But I don't think we'll need to spoil to talk about it. But I'm with you because like I've been very clear. I bloody loved Old Guard. I thought it was
hmm
great. But same
yeah,
as you, and it's same kind of preconception. And you know what built that preconception for me? It wasn't just that it was based, the graphic novel comic kind of property. It was Six Underground. It's all the Netflix movies that are slick with a big name that are perfectly serviceable action, enjoyable films. That's what they are. A lot
you're
of the big
ex-
Netflix films have been good.
you're
Sorry.
excluding Six Underground there, right? Like
I
that's
look,
not all the
it's,
other ones are decent. Six Underground.
I'll give Six Underground a slight pass just because it's like okay, it's pretty bad in places. Oh, like Extraction, the Chris Hemsworth vehicle. I was expecting, Ryan Reynolds' vehicle, which was Six Underground, Hemsworth vehicle, Extraction. These kind of bigger budget Netflix movies, I have a lot of time for. I think there's a gap that they fill that I'm really glad is being filled, and I enjoy that gap.
Yeah.
Sometimes that is the flavor of ice cream I'm into.
hmm
Not all the time, and it's not the stuff I'm going to give awards to. Charlize Theron is about to do one. It's called Old Guard. I'm like, yeah. Ooh, could be slick, could be a bit underworldy, could be a lot of things. Trailer, like the trailer. I'm digging it. This is looking good, but still only expecting there. What changed it all for me when I watched it is, I think same as you're probably going to feel. There was a care and attention and a little bit of you can almost feel a little bit of love for the source material. Um, but they weren't afraid to go, okay, here are some characters that you're going to spend a little bit of time with. It's not perfect. It's not the world's most amazing film, but you get to be with them a little bit. And they did that quite well. And there's a relationship, spoiler ahead, there's a relationship between two of the characters where one of them describes how important the other one is. And I promise you, dude, when it happened, I was like, I can't wait to talk to Paul about that because that for me right there was passionate, emotional cinema just happened to be on a screen from Netflix. And I loved it. In a graphic novel property, comic book property film with Charlize Theron and an axe, they managed to have that moment so well done. I was with them and I absolutely fucking loved that. I was like, yes, this film has a little bit of deep underground. they needed to cast better villains and stuff like that. But
Yeah, like so where to begin? So
yeah,
just
yeah,
just from people's point of views, which is if you haven't seen any of the trailers or know anything about Old Guard is a Netflix original film based on a comic book called The Old Guard, which is essentially about immortal warriors, which is who
yeah,
live throughout time and can heal from a lot of kind of bad injuries. That's the plot. I'm not
yeah.
going to go
Not
out like
vampires or
perhaps.
anything, by the way. Anybody who's like, is it another vampire? It's like, no, these people just happen to live for a very long time. It would appear, possibly forever, possibly not, and it's good.
Yeah, and they can heal from a large amount of damage and stuff like that. So they are warriors. Um,
Hmm.
yeah. So I am going to go into spoiler territory here.
Cool.
So I will put a warning now. Which goes, yeah. From what I was saying is, I got my preconception was a by the numbers comic book. Feared that it was going to be more into the realm of Six Underground. Now, I shouldn't bash Six Underground. I definitely think that it's a good foundation for a series, and I hope that they do more with it. Like, as in, it did enough for me to go. I hope there's a Seven Underground.
Yeah,
Um,
I enjoyed it for exactly what it was, but I
yeah,
cannot recommend it for exact as in it. If you're not ready for exactly what it is, you're probably going to be like, what are you talking about here? It's good
yeah,
for what it is, and it's very good at what it is. It's just not very good at anything else.
yeah, and don't for the love of God take that fucking name. Don't put Six Underground 2 or any kind of. We already have a whole terrible idea with titles, so don't go there.
Yeah,
But
that's a
onto the
good
spoiler
point.
parts. Um, and I won't go into the changes of the comic books yet. As I said, by the numbers, kind of like actiony comic book film. What I got was a redemption arc of a major of like Charlize Theron's character, which is an incredible piece. Like she plays Lost like on an emotional level that is just absolutely superb, and it's such a good pillar of the movie. Kind of like she's lost faith, and but you can still see kind of like I guess snap moments of kind of it being kind of slowly rekindled and stuff like that, which is just phenomenal. Um, I didn't think that I would be so much invested in a romance in the middle of this film as well. I think that the way that they handled something that I can only describe is probably going to send the alt right off in such a fucking tizzy.
Look,
Which
it's a same sex relationship for anybody who's wondering, and if you have an issue with that, like, well, for starters, get out. But it's
it's
yeah, that romantic link at the center of the movie really hits home nicely. It was really well done
yeah, and the origins of that relationship is incredible, which is it's which is during the
in the comic.
Crusades.
Like,
Oh no, this is like
oh, the
in
bit
the
that they
film,
explain,
or it's
yeah,
just it's the Crusades. As in, one of them is a knight of the Crusades, and the other one is a like Muslim defender of their lands. And to have them find, I found the love of my life across a battlefield. I never thought I'd be so invested in a comic book action like film, a relationship that I
I
didn't
know,
know I was going to get.
I
And
know,
like, so I do have to say that that was phenomenal. On top of that, the kind of I guess our into the film, our person that we kind of bring into the film, which is her character arc, although a little bit strange at times, which is it's a nice kind of like this is a family unit kind of
yeah,
thing, and you can see the kind of like and care that they have for each other, even though they are strangers for a considerable bit, and like you make the kind of jump. Is that to do with the immortal kind of like I guess powers, or is it just that they understand what they are, and that kind of separates them from the rest of humanity? That it means that
yeah.
their kind of relationship with each other is incredibly important. So like it's a, as I said, this is all spoilers, but I never expected to get this deep of a movie at all, and was just
Nope.
like, this is amazing.
No, it's look,
So
it's this is not. This is not 12 Angry Men we're talking here. This is not, don't anybody watch it and go, what are you talking about deep movie? Take into consideration everything that Paul said or I've just said. This is not the movie you're expecting when you get it. It perfectly fits the bill for bouncing preconceptions for me, because even though I was looking forward to it, the trailer had prepared me to go, I think I'm going to like this. I still had a completely different set of expectations, and it completely over delivered. Huge amounts of problems in it. Huge amount of problems in
Yeah,
it.
like
But it was still great. Actually, I'd like to know what you think of the weak parts, because I'll be honest with you, the Mark Zuckerberg kind of again, spoilers, everybody, going to talk about the bad guy who's not really the bad guy, the tech villain,
yeah,
proxy for society a little bit in some ways. A little bit of a ham there, a little bit of a ham maybe.
yeah, and the interesting. Do you know who that actor plays as well?
Yes,
The
and I
Yeah,
only know, and I'll be watching this back when this goes live, and I'll be watching it with my wife, and she'll go, "Are you about to say that I'm the one that told you he was from Harry Potter?"
yeah,
Because she
yeah. Like,
did.
yeah, my partner was also like, I know that person, and I was like, hmm. And then she was just
Yeah.
like, oh, do you know where he's from? And I just turned around and was just like, yeah, he's Harry Potter's cousin.
See, you knew, but I watched all like 14 Harry Potter movies in 3.5 hours once, for this channel, among other things. And so, like, I've had Harry Potter abuse almost. Whereas, like, she watched them regularly like normal people, and was, liked it. So she was like, I know where that guy's from. And then she told me, I'm like, really? Was he, was he Dumbledore? Because he looks different to anybody I remember. So apparently he was a littler kid. He was like the mean Harry's like step family or something.
Yeah, he's
He's like,
Harry. His name is Harry Milling. Just to grab
okay.
his name, just because I couldn't remember it off the top of my head. But yeah, he plays Dudley. Um,
So is he in the
of the
school
Harry.
with Harry Potter, or was he
No,
like, he was the mean
he's
kid
the
in the house or
Muggle.
something?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
See, I
Which
love it. You
was
say muggle, and my brain still has to go, oh, yeah, I know these
magical
terms.
person. Yeah,
Exactly.
magical person. Um, yeah. So
But
like,
yeah,
he did ham it up. Yeah, I will say. He's a little bit different from from the graphic novel. Kind of
and
character,
he
but
was written that way too. Like, you can tell that that's not all actor letdown. There's a certain amount of, ooh, does it work better in the comic?
he is a lot more of a capable character, as in he
Cool.
can hold his own. He has been trained as well. So he is a
Okay,
kind of fighter. So he's a little bit more of a like a not a kingpin. Excuse me. He's not more.
I
He's
got
like
you.
he's a capable character who's able to hold his own in a fight and stuff like that, but still vastly intelligent and also vicious. In this, he comes across as vicious, but he also comes
Hmm.
across as whiny and weedy in certain
Sniveling.
places.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Again, the picking holes in any film is really easy, but to have this thing, like, talk about under promise and overperform, it's up there with one of the all time. I was expecting something good, and I got something that I would consider, for what it is, great. I think it's in a league of one as far as the Netflix kind of recent tentpole action star movies.
yeah. No, I definitely agree. Kind of the original Netflix series or the original Netflix movies and stuff like that. It's a good way of kind of like showing the respect of a graphic novel and bringing it in. And but as we know, Netflix have started to kind of with the comics and graphic novel stuff, they have been able to kind of show more and more respect. Like with well previously with the Marvel Defenders stuff that was really really
Yeah,
good, and then top of it like the Umbrella Academy season 1 and season 2, which is
yeah.
we haven't also had a conversation about that, so we'll have to do that
That was
soon.
the smile on my face. I'm like, we're not
Yeah,
doing it in this episode, but we're talking about Umbrella Academy too at some stage.
yeah,
See our
like
previous show about soundtracks, and I think it gets mentioned because, wowzers, great use of music in Umbrella Academy too. You finished it now, right?
yeah. No, I finished it.
Cool.
So yeah, we'll have to have a
Um,
conversation about
yeah,
that.
but back on topic, do you have another one? Because like you've kind of covered my other one. I have something I can talk about, but not something I need to. So did you have something else lined up?
Um, like not really. Like
Okay.
I have a preconception of Primal Fear with Ed Norton.
It's one
Um,
of his best movies. It's one of his best
I have
performances, and I know it was his
yes.
breakout role.
See, I haven't seen it yet. I have a preconception of it, and I don't know. I don't know if it's going to ruin the film for me, or if it's going to just take me down an alleyway that I'm not that I was expecting. Is it going to take me down a corridor that I didn't expect to go to because I had this idea in my
Yeah,
head?
I think it's probably going to buck your expectations. I really do. I think it probably will, and in a probably a good way. Because I'm trying to imagine. See, I saw it way back when in like 90. What was that? 96, maybe 95. Um,
Yeah,
I think you're going to enjoy it. Number one, but I don't think it's going to be exactly what you think. And what it is probably, yeah, it's not what you're expecting, because
okay.
everybody that's probably talked to you about it is concentrating on the one thing about it, but there's a lot more to it than that one thing. So
Yeah, yeah, I know the core concept that's meant to be secret. Um,
yeah, so you know the conceit, like the thing that we're not spoiling for anybody else. You know that. That's what everybody
yeah,
talks about when it comes to the film. That isn't the film, weirdly.
like
You
that's
know?
the thing that I'm more interested in. I'm hoping that that knowledge isn't going to make me think that I'm going down one way and then drive me
Yeah.
down another way that either I'm hoping wasn't expecting, but in a good way, but or and not in a
Yeah.
bad way,
No, I
you know,
think
kind
I
of thing.
think you'll be all right. I think you'll be all right. You know, the only other thing that I can. Oh, sorry, you go.
No, I just thought of another one, but we'll yeah, go
Oh
continue
well,
your
I'll
thought on
I'll,
Primal
I'll
Fear.
quickly. The only thing I was going to throw in there is a very good friend of mine who gives great recommendations. McShulerson. She's a long time watcher of the show. Sends texts all the time. Thinks we're great. Obviously, she's crazy. She's the one that has been pumping for the last 2 years to say, please do typecast actors, and we still haven't done it. But she's very forgiving. Thank you. Um, she texted me going, "You're into," because I am weirdly into documentary, but particularly documentaries about religious cults or things like that. And there's a thing called Wild Wild Country on Netflix, which, as it turns out, she recommended it to me, and I was like, God, I don't think I've seen that. Um, and then when I went to watch it, I had started watching the first episode, but not continued. I was like, wow. So I had no memory. Whenever it came out a couple of years ago, I'd obviously started watching it and not kept going. And as I was watching it, and I had this preconceived notion that because this person who recommends stuff to me knows me really well and always gets it right, I was like, she's going to get it right. This is going to be great. I had this notion that it was going to be great in my way of great. But what it turned out to be is the reason I'd stopped watching it, I remembered about a half an hour in, it was pace. Now I've watched all 6 episodes and I can confirm it's very good. But I can also confirm that it would have been 3 really good episodes, not 6. It is dragging out in places, and I mean dragging. So I can definitely recommend Wild Wild Country. It's a very interesting true story, and it's got amazing stuff happening in it. But oh, if you could watch stuff at double speed on Netflix, I would have been watching this at double speed after episode two.
Okay. Yeah, so it's just a terrible kind of pacing issue. Anything that just
Yeah.
kind of maybe that's interesting.
So it
'Cause
was
I
as good as
was
I was expecting. I just wasn't expecting to, have to pay with so much time for it.
yeah, I get your point. I watched Immigration Nation recently. Watched the
Oh,
first 2 episodes of that.
good.
It's interesting. I'll say that.
Okay.
Like it doesn't really. It it's difficult to say because like ICE is a kind of very controversial kind of topic, and immigration, and some of the things they say, I'm like, that's not right. It's not
Hmm.
ethically right. And then there's some things they say, and I'm just like, I never thought of it that way, and I feel like a little bit of my soul is slowly being chipped away,
Oh,
kind of thing. As in,
oh,
like, I can see the point, in some ways, and I'm like, is that is it wrong for me to think that, or that kind of way?
recognizing someone else's point of view is never the same as sharing it or not seeing the horror that their point of view can bring. Because I'm like, I haven't seen this, so I don't know exactly what you're referring to, but I'm going to watch it. But yeah, because I've struggled in the past with things I've watched that have given a point of view or given me an understanding of another point of view that I fundamentally dislike, but I'm kind of glad I was given a better understanding of said point of view. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
curious about it now. I'm curious that you said that. So that's interesting. What was that the one that you thought of?
No, 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 that's not because I watched that out of the blue. I had no kind of preconcept. The only preconception that it was going to be this is probably going to be awful in the sense of kind of like a lot of sad stories of people who are trying their hardest and just are on
Gotcha.
the wrong side of legislation rather
Yeah,
than the wrong side of actual law. Um,
yeah.
but no, Upgrade. It's on Netflix as well. It's only recently been added. Upgrade. I watched. Did you watch this recently as well?
Yes, I finally got
Okay.
round to it. We talked about it a few weeks ago, and then I went and watched it. Like blocked everything out. What did you think?
Yeah. So my preconception was that it was just going to be a once again by the numbers kind of action film, and it surprised me with the deepness that it went into. Like I didn't see the ending coming as
Nope.
much as I
And I loved the
thought.
ending. I
Yeah,
loved the ending.
the ending's really really good, and there's plenty of kind of surprises in the ending. Like as in, I was starting to
Yeah.
get an inkling of certain things.
Hmm.
But then when the reveal happened, I was just like, okay, no, I
But
got completely sidelined. You know?
I'm going to take the 10 seconds out. Anybody who hasn't seen Upgrade, definitely go see it. Upgrade is essentially a very, very quick synopsis of what it is. It's in a very near future with a lot of AI, a lot of drones, a lot of personal tracking, etc. Guy gets injured, has a super chip inserted in his spine, which is his own personal AI, then that he basically gets upgraded as a human. And he goes to get revenge on the people who hurt him. And I won't talk about any of the things around him because I think it'll give away too much.
Yeah, like just to get it, he gets from the injury, he's paralyzed, and this AI allows
Yeah.
him to move again. That's kind of also
Yeah. Sorry.
a good. No,
So,
no, no.
yeah.
Just it's very good. My preconception was going to be that it's going to be by the numbers again, action film kind of thing. But yeah, I got a good deep mystery surprise kind of thing. What about yourself?
This is going to sound terrible. I agree with you. Not that I agree with you, sounds terrible, but I got from it what I was expecting from Ex Machina. I came out, after Upgrade finished, I was like, that's a film that had the the fortitude to do it its way and leave it its way, etc., etc. Like it for what it was itself. I at no point did I feel like anybody was making something for somebody else, and I really, really enjoyed that. Also, why has Tom Hardy got a twin brother that's not quite as famous as him? Like, when you look at that dude, are you Tom Hardy's cousin? Like, is that what
Yeah,
that is? Really
yeah.
distracting at first, because I had to really distracting. And if you're watching this with me, my wife, really distracting because somebody's sitting beside me going, "Are you sure it's not Tom Hardy? It's not Tom Hardy. Trust me." But
Yeah,
a small part of me was like, maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm the one that doesn't know.
yeah.
He's a lookalike.
He is. He's very close to kind of thing, and an excellent actor because some of those scenes, like the difference in action to thought, is quite fun
Yeah,
to have. But yeah, I have to say, and then um some of the kind of I guess concepts that they go through and stuff like that are kind of interesting. Because they explore, they don't leave anything kind of open. I would say that they
no,
kind of go down far enough down the branch that you're kind of like, okay,
yeah.
okay,
Do you know what
you
it
know,
reminded me of? Actually, Arc. It's proper self-contained good sci-fi. Arc is another one of our Netflix recommendations. It's a smaller film. Again, people don't do enough sci-fi that's just happy to be sci-fi, happy to tell its story, and happy to be really good at what it's doing. I'd put Arc and Upgrade in there and go, yeah, I'll stand behind them. If somebody says to me they like sci-fi, I'm like, you know what you should watch? arc. Upgrade. These are films that are just not trying to build franchises, not trying to play to an audience. They're trying to be themselves. And if you're a sci-fi person, yeah, this is good.
I would throw Circle in there as well.
Still haven't seen. And so apologies to you because I did say, look, it's on the list with everything else you keep telling me to watch.
So this is not the Tom Hanks. Is the Tom Hanks one? It's not the and there's. It's not the Emma Watson one. It's another one because I think there's
Yeah,
two called Circle, and one of them's about a tech company, and the other one's about a circle.
yeah, the one about the tech company with Emma Watson I've seen. That I
Yeah,
have
so
seen.
there's
And I knew
another.
you weren't
Yeah,
talking
so
about that one. Yeah, it's the other
okay,
one.
cool. Yeah, just to get on Netflix. There's
Yeah.
two, so it's about I think it's a whole bunch of people in a circle, and it's kind of
Yeah.
them finding out stuff, which is really good.
Yeah. Don't
Um,
I was just about to say, you definitely can't say anything. I can tell by the way you started that sentence.
yeah,
That's
it's
groovy.
Kenneth
And
Above.
hey, look, upgrade one last thing, just on that Tom Hardy tip. I think I've just realized one of the worst things about that guy looking a bit like Tom Hardy is Venom, because Venom also had Tom Hardy in a symbiote essentially, with multiple voices and lack of control. Like how unfortunate is it? Because Upgrade was made before. Wow, maybe the producers were actually watching Upgrade, going, "Do you know who'd be good in Venom? Is Tom Hardy free? Because like
They
this
got
guy, but just
confused or
more
something.
famous would be perfect." I want a more
They got
famous
a little,
that guy.
yeah. That's yeah. They got a little confused, maybe even just on the roster. They were just like, I want Tom Hardy. He's in that film Upgrade, and someone went, and he went, don't argue. I want Tom Hardy, and he's just like, right,
Yes, sir.
cool. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
So
think
yeah,
I
I
think
guess
that's it for me. Have you got some more?
no, no. Like as I said, I'm going through the backlog of I guess every now and again I'll probably update the Twitter with maybe some that
Yeah.
I've had the same kind of. I'll give you my if I do on my on Twitter, I'll give you my preconception and then my very short view of what's happened.
Ooh,
But yeah,
nice.
um,
Well, then I'm gonna put it on you this week to say do all the beg stuff there, Paul, and then I'll get us out of here once you're finished touting our wares and begging for everybody's approval.
so like, subscribe, ring that notification bell if you want to hear more. We have a large library of videos like this. Which is yeah. So please subscribe. If we have any way made you smile or anything, or made you think about watching a film that we've suggested here, which is like taking on our recommendations. If and you haven't subscribed, do subscribe. It helps us out a little bit. If you don't want to subscribe, ring the notification bell, or sorry, not ring the notification bell. Share us out, even give us a like, kind of stuff. And also comment down below if there is a film that you've had a preconception and it has broken us. Or on top of that, if you have taken any of our recommendations and decided to watch them, come back and give us a little what thoughts.
Yeah, thoughts or a beating, or if you're like, give us a piece of your mind if you feel we've led you astray. But we haven't, because let's face it, we're usually right. I couldn't even be confident enough to drop the usually. I was going to say we're always right, and I'm like, no, even I don't believe that. No. So
No, my Twitter,
on that,
my
oh,
Twitter, my Twitter profile specifically says I am mostly wrong. So
yeah, but that's why you're worth hearing out though, because you're also sometimes right, much like me. And on that kind of lack of confidence, I think we'll end, which is definitely you should watch us because we know when we're right sometimes. I've been Patrick.
and I've been Paul.
And we've been Here Aside. We'll see you next time.
See you later.